Hello and welcome to episode 156 of the Clean Energy Show. I'm Brian Stockton.
And I'm his co-host, James Whittingham. This week, 7-Eleven has started their own electric car charging network. Can Brian charge his car faster than he can drink a big gulp-sized Slurpee and not get brain freeze? Hopefully he'll let us make a video to find out.
Talk to my agent. The Baidu robotaxi service has been given permission to expand driverless rides to Beijing, China. The service has already been offered in Wuhan, where its primary job was to transport viruses. Interesting.
Oh, too soon, Brian, too soon. Rwanda has one of the oldest and most strict plastic bag bans in the world. It's so strict that cocaine dealers are now forced to use tiny mason jars instead of dime bags.
The city of Hamburg, Germany is planning to store waste heat from steel mills and aluminum foundries deep underground in a cavern, which I think is where the Beatles played in the 1960s.
Oh, that's correct. All that and a whole lot more on this week's edition of the Clean Energy Show.
All right, I want to just start with my travel update. So I just spent the weekend in Saskatoon, and I stayed at the
What was the
Bessborough.
occasion, sir? What was the occasion? Didn't mean to stump you there. Why did you go to Saskatoon? It's the gist of my question.
There's no occasion, but it would take like 10 minutes to explain.
Okay.
So, you know.
Okay.
But we stayed at the Bessborough Hotel, which is like a castle on the Saskatchewan River. But I mention it only because they gave us a room with a turret.
Your own turret?
Our own turret, yeah. It's, you know.
Okay. Is this because you're the host of the Clean Energy Show? Is
Maybe.
this starting to be a thing now?
I think it's mostly because the hotel was not busy. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, they just gave us that nice corner room and literally a turret. You know, this building looks like a castle. So, you know, it was super fun. And I could look down and see my car charging at their one electric car charging spot right from my turret.
Right from your turret. Your ivory turret.
Yeah. So, and we're recording a day early this week because I'm headed to Fargo for the Fargo Film Festival in North Dakota. Very excited about that. We're going with our friend Diane, who's got a short film in the festival. Love Fargo. It's a great place. If we have any listeners in Fargo, I just wanted to mention it in case anybody has any recommendations for, you know, restaurants and cafes and stuff. I know I'm already going to go to Sammy's Pizza, which I really enjoyed last time I was there. But yeah, if anyone has any other suggestions, hit me up on Twitter at Brian Stockton.
How would you describe the pizza there? Because we live in a city that has its own specific pizza. It's not world-renowned necessarily, but we have a very specific pizza here.
Yeah,
What would it...
Sammy's Pizza is, I would call it Italian style, classic Italian style pizza.
Oh, okay.
You know, I think they, you know, they twirl the dough around, you know, that kind of thing.
Right. So last week, as you know, I bought a car.
Yeah.
And I made a stupid song about it.
Yeah.
And the universe is punishing me, Brian, because unlike everyone else, I have that stupid song in my head. And it wasn't from hours and hours of production in the studio.
Yeah.
I did it about as long as you would expect me to do it, which was about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's still in my head.
Well,
it haunts me. I can't sleep at night.
Luckily, I don't listen to the podcast, so it's not stuck in my head.
It's good for you, but you've got a long trip to Fargo. That's going to take a couple of days. So, yeah, last week I was about to finalize and go to the finance department. I wanted to talk about that. I bought a Chevy Bolt full battery electric EV. It is known to be the cheapest-ish long-range vehicle available in North America, so that's the one we went for. We are extremely happy with it. We've had it for a week now. The finance department there, you know, we got approved for not having any down payment on it. We did a pre-approval for even a more expensive model, the Bolt EV. And then, so we had to redo the financing for the different models. So they did that, and they came back and he said, and this is with a $16,000 down payment now. They came back and said, well, guess what? You've been approved for the price of the car and this much extra. And now, let me tell you about the great many things that we can add on. Warranties, and of course I was pissed off about that. So now why would I buy a car that's warranted, most of it's warranted from 5 to 8 years? Then they brought up tires, and then I ended up buying the car, got out of there, and you know, I find out there's a 1-year tire warranty. So that the guy goes over the tire warranty with me that he claims I didn't have. It's just stupid, and it's a scam. And we took our car to a this new business where we live in our small Canadian city that is selling just EVs and hybrids, but they're also selling gas cars because that's what people are trading in.
Yeah.
And they got this great business plan about doing all electric stuff. They're going to bring in electric snowmobiles. They're going to bring in electric personal watercraft, which I can see you on.
Is a fantastic idea.
I think your new cottage needs to have an electric port, a charger at the dock,
Yeah.
which they'll probably sell. And I can see you in douchey sunglasses and a Speedo just kind of cruising around the lake all the time, very quietly.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Not creating any fumes. And also, they're bringing in some high-quality e-bikes that are manufactured in your favorite city, Saskatoon. I forget the name of the company, but...
yes. Is it Bictrix? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So, yeah, it's a local e-bike company, and they're going to sell them there, and lots of other things. And I think some motorcycles, too. Not Harley-Davidsons, but some other where they can't sell Harley-Davidsons because that's tricky. Yep. You have to become a dealer. But, yeah, they're doing that, and... I just love them because they're like you and I. They're not like the Chevy people or even the Chevy car salesman he's still a car salesman. He happens to, come forward and buy an EV. But I love the fact that they're great and they know everything. And they're part of the EV association and, and it's just, so we're going to sell the car on consignment. You put that idea in my head a long time ago.
Yeah. Your Prius, which is worth decent money.
Yeah, which is kind of why we're getting into the whole electric car thing in the first place. We paid it off with our line of credit on our house when we redid our mortgage. But there was, there wasn't much left on the loan. It's actually worth many times that. So some cars would be worth $25,000. This is a 6-year-old car. And that's what he came up with. He said we would normally list it for $25,900, but we've had wildlife accident, which is more than $7,500. I just thought I'd mention that because not everybody has sold a car this way. Mm-hmm. So when it's over $7,500, you can't get the normal credit doesn't matter bank to finance it. They won't finance something with an accident over $7,500 where we live.
Right.
So that just restricts it to the banks. It narrows your way of doing things. But one thing that I realize is that people who buy this car can get financing. If I sold it individually, they wouldn't have that option. I don't finance. I'm not a loan shark.
Yeah.
You'd have to go a different way. So this is kind of nice that they help you set it up that way, just like a dealership would. And, they're going to detail it. They're going to charge us for it, but we don't have to do anything. And there's a couple scratches in the front bumper hitting, parking curbs.
Sure.
And they're going to take care of that if need be. They think that if a taxi driver buys it, he won't care. If a family buys it, they might, and then they'll just bill us the money. He's got a guy. Sure. He's got a guy for everything. So everything's taken care of. It was a really nice experience. Of course, it's not sold yet. Hopefully it'll sell. I mean, he just got it on Friday night. So, I'm hoping maybe by the time we do our next show that we might have an offer on it. We'll see. It's just, I really like it. I mean, it's going to cost us a couple grand out of, say, if he sells it for $22,000, I would get $20,000 out of it or something like that, and that's okay. I mean, because I'm getting more than the trade-in was only like $15,000 from everybody. So it's a lot better. Yeah.
So this is a free commercial for REV Automotive here in Regina.
I should go work for them. I don't know what I would do. They were hiring recently, but great company, and I'm going to keep an eye on them, and we'll see them around at the shows, the local EV shows, I'm sure, and we'll talk to them some more. And they actually know some of the people we know from the EV community, so that's great. Oh, Brian, the Clean Energy Store is now open.
Wow.
So, you were saying the new logo would look good on a T-shirt. So what did I do? I went online, I threw it on a T-shirt, threw it on Twitter, and immediately 4 people bought them.
Wow.
And I was thinking, okay, I guess that's okay then. You don't say you like it, but I guess it's not terrible. Yeah,
there's a new logo that James did just in the last couple of weeks, and I thought it looked great. Would look great on a T-shirt, and turns out it does.
And there's hats and mugs and sports bra. How could I not make the sports bra? I had to.
Yeah.
Just for a limited time. If you really want the sports bra, it's expensive. And we set the prices so that there's no profits for us. Unfortunately, these on-demand T-shirts do cost a chunk of change. I do recommend spending $1 or $2 more on the premium T-shirt, which is a blend of different materials. I assume that's that's going to be a better T-shirt.
Well, I'm 100% cotton guy, so that's what I would.
Are you? Oh, well, you get the basic tee there.
Yeah. Well, that's
Why?
That's good. So the 100% cotton is cheaper.
Yeah, it's a couple bucks cheaper.
Yeah. So we are apparently not making any money on this. So if you do want to give us some money, we have a donate button, right? So buy a T-shirt.
Yeah, there's a donate button.
And then don't, because I think sometimes when people buy a T-shirt from a podcast,
they're supporting.
They want to support the show, and so
Well, you're advertising it. I see it as an advertisement.
Oh, it definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah. So go to your local EV shows wearing it proudly. I'd like to get the hat. The hat's embroidered. I'm not sure how it'll turn out, but it looks like a pretty decent hat. And what else is there? I don't know. There could be whatever you want. I don't want to do overkill. I mean, you can make pretty much anything a diary if you want to. But yeah, that's what we're just giving it a try. And eventually we will make a profit off the T-shirts. But this is an introductory offer for our supporters who have been with us in the early stages of the podcast as we start to grow and expand. So that's great. The fully charged show in Australia, I just read an article, Brian, remember that they're coming to Vancouver.
Yeah.
And they have one in the States and Britain as well. Well, apparently it didn't go very well. Automakers didn't show up, and people were kind of disappointed in how that turned out. I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, I read that too. So a fully charged, the live shows are well established in the UK, and they've done a couple, I believe, in the US now. And it's kind of like a trade show, but also an informational thing with, talks and whatnot. But they do rely on, the EV makers to kind of show up and have, stuff for people to look at, cars and stuff. So it sounds like that was lacking a bit in Australia, but it's coming up in September in Canada and Vancouver. So hopefully it goes well.
So I got new glasses, right? I tried them out a week ago and I couldn't see the screen. We just barely made it through the show.
Right.
Because they were reading glasses. It's a long story. But now I switched to computer glasses. And they're trifocal. This is why I bring them up. This is a Costco. They said the only way they make computer glasses is trifocal. So if I look down, I can see a foot away and read a book.
Okay.
If I look, my glasses, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that they're fairly big. They're not small, so there's lots of real estate for different focusing lengths. And if you look down through the top, it's distanced.
Okay.
But if you want to buy normal bifocals, it's $100 extra. But I'm getting these trifocals, which cover everything, for a low price of $200.
Yeah, so they're not the expensive progressive type lenses. They're just like a trifocal, like a lineless trifocal.
That's right. They are gradual, though. It's not sudden. And yeah, it's just weird. And the only reason I even know about the distance is because the guy told my partner when she was asking about it the week later, and he said, we don't usually tell people this, but if you look at the top, you can see distance. So I figure if you're at a cubicle somewhere in the office wearing these glasses and somebody walks up to your cubicle, you look up and you'll see them. And they just want to make it so nobody complains. Well, they're trifocals. And I can see the script this week very, very well.
Nice.
I don't feel like I'm drunk or anything. So, yeah, it's not double vision or anything. We have some letters here from our local EV associations. In our Canadian province, there's two of them for some reason, and they're thinking about joining. I learned that at REV Automotive, that the two organizations are thinking of finally, if they can work it out, they can join together and become one powerful lobby group.
Maybe you and I can broker a deal between the two organizations.
Sure, that could be our role.
Get them to come together.
But they've both asked us to go to and speak at and present at EV shows in our province. Yeah. One in Saskatoon and one here where we live. And normally it's not a big deal, but you're very busy. You've got a lot of things on your schedule and you've got some family stuff to deal with, and it's keeping you pretty active. And I have some health issues that are keeping me kind of tired these days, and I've got an appointment with a doctor who's going to see how I sleep at night. So I'm going to the hospital to have a sleep test.
Oh,
have you ever done that?
Yeah, no, I've always been interested in that, yeah.
Well, my partner's wife is my partner. Her sister is in the hospital, unfortunately, with some unexpected things, and there's a superbug going around, and apparently the sleep clinic is right down from where her medical intensive care unit is. So I'm worried about bringing home a superbug, but other than that, as long as I bathe in hand soap, I'll be fine.
Yeah, so is it one of those things where they hook you up to electrodes and you'll have to sleep there overnight?
They said they're going to watch me with a CPAP machine to see what happens if anything changes.
Okay.
I don't know if they'll hook me up to electrodes. And they might.
But do you have to spend the whole night? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or day. I don't
Yeah.
know. They haven't mentioned it. It's a long story. But, you know, I have to say, my doctor was impatient about how long the Saskatoon clinic took to get back to me. So she called the Regina Hospital where we live. And then they both got back to me. So and none of it's going to cost me a dime, Americans.
Nice.
It's just paid for by the government, which I happen to think is an important thing and a human right for people. Most Canadians of all stripes are big believers in our healthcare system. But Marjorie from SaskEV wrote us. She says, I've been a fan of the Clean Energy Show since you hit your 100th episode. Boy, we were young then, Brian. So young, so naive.
So long ago.
So green behind the ear, or wet, or whatever it is.
Question? Yeah.
I don't know. It is now. The show never fails to deliver. It's informative, helpful, humorous, and inspiring. Something much needed in this time of transition. And then I told her we probably can't do it. And she wrote back, she said, yeah, as a retired person, myself easing into that particular classification, I realized that perhaps this invitation could be regarded as a tad much, as arranging one's retirement energy and interest is a top and time-consuming priority. And I know it is for you, Brian. It is your organization of your retirement is your main concern, and a big one. You should have an assistant for that to assist you in your retirement.
Yeah, like a butler maybe.
As well, the first year or two in the retirement zone can be understood as feeling as if one is on an extended vacation. And I suppose you are now forever on vacation.
I find that I have a really long to-do list. And, you know, like just looking like this room that I'm in right now is a complete mess and needs to be cleaned up. And, you know, but, you know, I can only get to like 2 things a day on my list if I'm lucky. So,
well, that's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you're checking things off at least.
Yeah, I'm making progress. But thank you very much for the invitations from both of the EV associations. Maybe we can do it someday, but right now we're just too lazy. Is that
Well, that's putting it politely or impolitely. I don't know. So we also got asked to present SEVA too, not to be confused with SaskEV, which they confuse me.
Yeah.
The two things. Yeah. I never know which group, Facebook group I should be posting
Let's broker a deal between the two.
Okay.
Okay, so Baidu, this is a company in China known primarily as a search engine. That's, you know, like a computer company, a software company. They've been offering autonomous rides for a while now in China. We've probably talked about it before at some point, but they've expanded. So this story is from Electrek. They've now been approved for driverless rides in Beijing. They had been doing it already in a couple of cities. They are, primarily known as a search engine, but they've been working on AI and autonomous driving in the last few years. Turns out they've already offered quite a lot of rides. Now, these are in, it was Wuhan and another city, but in a smaller geofenced area. This is not particularly widespread. But their service is called Apollo Go. They have surpassed 1 million autonomous rides last summer, and now up to 2 million rides just by this past January. So
really,
they've already...
So they're really taken off.
Yeah, they've already done lots of rides. And they've now been announced that Beijing is going to allow rides. Again, it's in a smaller area of Beijing, at least to begin with, and then hopefully going to kind of larger areas after that. But this is a pretty big deal. We mostly have talked about similar things happening in San Francisco. But it sounds like the China operation is perhaps ahead of where we are here in North America.
Yeah. And, I think that, well, first of all, they're going to be electric, right? I mean, they're always electric. The business model says to be electric, so that's a good thing. However, there probably will be more cars on the roads just because you have to, go pick people up the way that works and then sit around somewhere. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting how China, but your Tesla Model 3 has full self-driving beta software on it that you paid for. Mm-hmm. When the snow melts, we should do another 7-Eleven run,
Yeah.
which is funny because we're talking about 7-Eleven on the show this week.
No, and there's a major update that has started rolling out for a full self-driving beta. I haven't got it yet, but I'm expecting it. It sounds like it's slowly going wide. So by the time the snow melts, yeah, we should be able to do another autonomous drive with the latest version.
How do you suspect it will go?
The reports sound good, and this is the release now that it's a single stack software now. So previously with the Tesla full self-driving, when you're on the highway, it was the older software that's like a few years old, whereas then you're on city streets, it was the full self-driving with the more elaborate, graphic display and everything. But after promising it for a very long time, they've now unified it, and it's only one stack. So it's the FSD stack, takes you on city streets as well as on highways. Yeah, I don't know. Early reports sound good, so we'll see.
When's the last time you tried it? Because I know you don't usually use it because it's too much of a hassle for you.
Yeah, no, I haven't really. Like the fall was probably the last time I used it. I tried it a couple of times in the winter, just kind of curious because, as we complain about a lot, like the winter driving here is very bad. The snow, the piles of snow encroach on the roads and they're not cleared very well and you can't see the lines and everything. So I've tried it a couple of times and just canceled it right away because the car was too confused by the snow and stuff.
Brian, do you know YouTube superstar Mark Rober? Are you familiar with Mark Rober? Are you familiar with Mr. Beast?
I've heard the name, but I've never seen the channel.
Oh, my God. You got to get in touch with the kids, man. Well, Mark Rober is a famous YouTuber, and he's a good one. He makes about 10 videos a year, and he used to be an engineer at NASA. He worked on the first Mars rover, and he makes entertaining videos. I think 3 of them are about squirrels in his yard. You'll never feel the same way about squirrels if you watch a squirrel video.
I have lots of squirrels in my yard.
Well, I think you should watch it, but don't mess with them, is what I'm saying, because they're a lot smarter than you think. So he went to Rwanda. One video a year he does sort of highlighting some good technology. Now, in Rwanda, there's this company called Zipline that delivers blood to hospitals. They get an order, and they have unmanned drones, unpersoned drones, that they use a sort of a launcher from, so they get up to speed instantly, and they use electricity to fly these drones. And then they use a hook to hook them when they come back. They sort of have a hook and hits them. And yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's been going on for 6 years, and they're successful. And there's flight after flight. So a hospital needs something, they need a medication. It all comes from the central area via these drones. And yeah, it's just, it's fascinating. And so they're working on something for personal delivery. You remember Amazon said that they would do drone delivery? Well, they've got a different idea. They designed a quiet drone based on, they changed the wings on the drones to replicate hummingbirds. They learned something from hummingbirds. Okay. So they're quieter.
Wow.
And they're not as, annoying. And this is something that has to hold like 6 pounds or something. So they're a fairly substantial drone. And what they do is they fly really high, and then they drop with a line. A little compartment comes down and opens up and drops your whatever out. Lunch,
blood,
medication, blood. And yeah, they're hoping to, because it's less annoying and it's more precise, because the thing that comes down also has little fans on it to move it around precisely and can put it right on your doorstep. So the idea is to not be, it seems like it makes more sense than what Amazon was proposing before. Mm-hmm. But that's not the point. The point was that he went to Rwanda, and there was a genocide 30 years ago that was a big story in our country, because one of our generals was involved in that, and there was movies made about it and everything. But Rwanda sounds like it's doing really well now, and he wanted everyone to know that. And he even pointed out that 15 years ago, they were one of the first countries to ban plastic bags. And the plastic bag ban is, very severe. There's signs at the airport. Yeah, so from Singapore news agency CNA, the signs in the airport arrival areas around the world commonly warn passengers against smuggling drugs, weapons, and large amounts of currency. But the white sign that confirmed the confronted me as I cleared customs in Rwanda's airport was rather unusual. It says use of non-biodegradable
Ethylene.
polythene bags. The use of plastic bags is prohibited at the airport. Okay, so the smallest East African, the small East African nation is one of the least. I'm going to start that again. Sorry. The small East African nation is one of at least 40 countries that have restricted, banned, or taxed the use of plastic bags. But its approach is one of the most extreme. Owners of factories caught producing non-authorized bags face up to a year in prison. And while those who sell them could be fined a maximum of 300,000 Rwandan francs, about $408. Exceptions include plastic bags used in packaging of meat, chicken, and fish, and milled leaves so they can easily be refrigerated. So this reporter had 2 plastic bags in a suitcase, as one might if you're putting shoes in there or something. Yep. He felt like he was going to get arrested or something. But yeah, it's one of the cleanest nations in the world. And get this, the country sets aside every last Saturday of the month for a community work day. And this is something Mark Rober brought up as well. The whole country gets together and cleans the joint up.
Wow.
On one day, and they're happy to do it. And citizens work to bring in together to clean the streets, and there's no garbage around or anything. They cut the grass and trim the bushes, and it's called Umuganda, and it helps keep up the high level of cleanliness. Part of its, plastic bag ban was this. This came out of it, and he said, I guess one of the drivers that was driving around said, yeah, it makes a big difference. People threw away a lot of bags, so they took action. So it was particularly bad. So they went from being, I'll just throw away this bag and the country's full of bags to like one of the cleanest countries in the world. And, things are great. And if you want to donate soccer balls because they need soccer balls there. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Just thought it was interesting. Thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, so on to a story from Hamburg. So this is from Bloomberg. And Hamburg, Germany is building an experimental system called aquifer thermal energy storage that keeps hot water underground until it can warm homes during the winter. So this is something they're planning to do in the city of Hamburg. They have, steel plants and factories that are generating excess heat. And so they thought they could do something with this. So the experimental technology is called aquifer thermal energy storage. It pumps hot water 1,300 meters below the surface and then brings it back up for use in municipal heating systems known as district heating. Something we don't really have around here, but is more common in the UK and Europe. And if all goes as planned, by next year, the technology will be able to provide heat to more than 13,000 households. So this is, district heating, but, getting the heat from waste heat from these factories. So they already have above ground storage facilities that are effectively massive insulated tanks filled with water heated by electricity from wind turbines that's not needed in the grid. So they're already using excess wind turbine energy to heat water and storing it in tanks. So they have some experience with this. It's, a battery isn't the only thing that you can put the energy from. So the project's success will depend on how many cavities the rock has and the thickness of the strata deep underground, which will determine the quantity of hot water that it can store. The better the stone, the better it absorbs the heat. So this kind of porous rock underground, and you can imagine if it's that deep underground that it would probably, hold the heat really well. This is a really excellent version of a
furnace. I wonder what the temperature is 4,000 feet into the ground. It's got to start getting warm by then, you'd think.
Yeah, I imagine that's, part of the whole system, but, it's...
So it's almost geothermal, but you're also storing your own warmth that you put down there. So it must be, waste heat from steel mills and things like that, all being poured down there.
Now it could be that their aquifer is not maybe naturally as warm as ours is, because I wanted to, in conjunction with this.
You're not a geologist. Yeah. How would you know? You don't know. We don't know. We're just podcast hosts.
No, all I know about geology is that episode of the Flintstones where Fred has to explain the various strata levels of rock in bedrock. But here in our city, they've just approved a geothermal project which they're going to build a new swimming facility, a public pool, and they've approved it to be heated by geothermal because we have...
From where, though? From the site? Did they drill? I mean, did they test to see if there was
it's
geothermal
from the
down there?
aquifer, and we've actually talked about it before on the show, but at the place I used to work, the University of Regina, they did the research for this back in the 1970s, and they dug far enough underground, found the aquifer, found that it was hot. My sense is, and I'm not a geologist, but it's like, the aquifer is everywhere. So I believe you can kind of tap into it from, pretty much anywhere. So the idea would be to tap into it.
You and I should tap into it.
Pardon me?
You and I should
totally
tap into it.
It's you got to dig really deep though. But we have, of course, lots of oil wells around here. There's a geothermal, electricity plant here in our province that works on these same kind of principles. And one of the reasons we did that is because we have all this drilling equipment already that's, been used for oil. We have the expertise for that. So they're still waiting for some of the money to come from the federal government and the provincial government. It's been approved in principle, but, they believe that they can just drill down, get the heat for free, and they're going to drill a second hole to put the once the water's been used, to put it back down into the aquifer.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope that works out. That would be nice because, for one reason, when you do that, when you use geothermal to heat pools, you don't have to worry about, what temperature it is. So you can run it in like semi-winter, let's say. Or you could run it in winter if you wanted to. I don't think they will, but you could run it when it's pretty, freezing out if you wanted to. And people could go in there and use it as a spa-like experience. Or at least if it's not costing you anything to heat, like, just running the pump and taking the heat out of the water, as opposed to using the actual water.
Yeah, and my sense was they're going to heat the whole building with it as well, not just the pool.
Why wouldn't you, Brian?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't you?
And
it'd be silly
maybe
not
this
to.
will set a precedent for the future, including things like district heating. We could have district heating here in maybe new neighborhoods that they're building.
Or a new office building. You put up a new office building that's, 20, 30 stories high. Why wouldn't you heat it with drill a hole under that sucker and see what happens? Yeah. So Clean Technica has an article on 7-Eleven creating their new own EV charging network. The name of that charging network is 7Charge. Don't know why. Why wouldn't they go with 7-Eleven Charge? I don't know. Let's be brief. Let's make it brief. Let's abbreviate it and take out the 11.
The kids today abbreviate everything.
The first stations of the 7Charge network are in, and they are already running, Florida, Texas, Colorado, and California. So, boom, there you go. And they claim that they're going to have one of the biggest charging networks in the world. Across the United States and Canada, 7-Eleven has, Brian, 13,000 stores with Slurpee machines and fountain dispensers and day-old hot dogs. The company says once the network's expansion is complete, 7-Eleven will have one of the largest and most compatible fast-charging networks of any retailer in North America. So let's say you're charging, you got a Hyundai and you're charging for 18 minutes. I mean, okay. Maybe you're on the highway, you come in, you have a bathroom break. 7-Eleven have bathrooms? I don't know if I'd want to use one.
Yeah, they might have to work on that.
Some of the gas stations do. Some of the 7-Eleven gas stations, maybe that's where they're at, some of them. And then you order food and a Slurpee, and next thing you know, I guess your car is charged. So interesting because they've got a lot of locations, and, I would prefer, well, they have amenities, right? I mean, I don't know about the bathrooms. I think they have bathrooms, but write in and tell us, cleanenergyshow@gmail.com. I don't want to reach out to 7-Eleven headquarters and ask them if they have bathrooms or not, but we'll see.
Okay, so last week we were complaining about the Biden administration because they, after passing all these wonderful clean energy bills and acts and providing money, they approved some oil drilling in Alaska. Not crazy about that. They've redeemed themselves a little bit this week. The U.S. Department of Justice has filed a brief on Thursday in support of local governments in Colorado that are part of a growing wave of local and state governments pursuing climate litigation against fossil fuel companies. So this comes from The Guardian. And basically, the oil companies prefer these cases to be argued in federal court because that is, for some reason, more advantageous to them. But they're trying to get this in state court, and the Biden administration, Department of Justice, wrote a brief in favor of keeping it at the state level. This was apparently a campaign promise that that the Biden administration would support strategically these various lawsuits. So we've talked about these before. So one way to make the planet greener and cleaner is to fight the oil companies in court. And this is something that is definitely happening. It's very similar to what happened with big tobacco when they were finally taken to task and big fines handed out for knowingly selling a cancer-causing product. So the oil companies, of course, have been knowingly selling a climate change product for many decades now and have been, busy obfuscating and pretending that that wasn't a big deal. So, I just wanted to mention that mostly because, we were complaining last week about Biden.
A lot of, almost every week now, there's headlines about, oil companies getting sued.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. I mean, we have yet to see a lot of success in that, but they're just starting and coming on strong.
No, and of course, this kind of legal action always takes a really, really, really long time.
Yeah. Just every time somebody has a lot of money who you're suing, they can stretch it out until the earth is dead.
Yeah, delaying is one of the primary tactics.
And speaking of the earth being dead, from the New York Times, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says that global average temperatures are estimated to rise 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels sometime around the first half of the 2030s, as humans continue gleefully to burn coal, oil, and natural gas. Under the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement, virtually every nation agreed to pursue efforts to hold global warming to 1.5 degrees. So this is not good news. Now, beyond that point, the impacts of catastrophic heat waves, flooding, drought, crop failures, and species extinction become significantly harder for humanity to handle. And it's not good to see that this is coming up this quickly, because we wanted to eliminate all the emissions in the world by 2050 and hold it at 1.5 there. That is our ambition. But the Earth has already warmed an average of 1.1 degrees Celsius since the industrial age, and with global fossil fuel emissions setting records last year, that goal is quickly slipping out of reach. There's still one last chance, Brian, to shift course. Industrialized nations need to join together immediately to slash greenhouse gases roughly in half by 2030. So it's a race between the economics that you and I talk about clean energy taking over, and the clawing of fossil fuel interests to keep things going as long as possible.
And obviously we're making progress, and that's what we talk about every week on the show. There's amazing things happening with clean energy every single week. It just needs to go faster. Maybe we need to put out 2 episodes of the podcast a week. Maybe that would do it.
Yeah. I don't know. What else can we do?
What else can we do?
I mean, really. We could shout.
We're just
we
2
can
people.
Shout louder. Yeah, just 2 simple people. I'm just disgusted by it, though. Like it was in the headlines today that the Canada has approved a small modular nuclear reactor to be online sometime after this point.
Yeah, that's not soon enough.
When we have the technology now, we just choose to be influenced by lobby groups, and it's crap. It's just, I don't want to be a downer. We're mostly positives on the show, but we have to, be real about this. Elvis, the tweet of the week. John Raymond Hanger pointed out a chart that the EIA put online. This is the Energy Information Agency, which you may or may not have heard of, but it's actually a part of the U.S. Department of Energy. So they should know better. They've got the S-curve for EV adoption. And, of course, it's shooting up between now and 2030. And then it just flats. It just goes flat. The people decide, no, they don't like EVs in 2030. And sales stop going up. It makes no sense. And it's important because government policy and investments are made on the stuff that these jackasses put out. And It's just wrong, and everyone knows it's wrong.
Yeah, this chart I'm looking at, it's like it goes to 2050, but it has, EV penetration still below 20% by 2050. It makes no sense.
So we've got an email from, I believe it's Eric in California. Hi, Brian and James. I took delivery of my Model Y, November 1st, 2022. My timing was pretty bad in that I didn't get the big discount that has come online since, but I won't be getting a tax break thanks to Mansion. Thanks, Mansion. I'm very happy with the car. Is that a typo? Or is he calling his car a cat? I don't know. I don't know him personally.
He loves his cat as well.
It could be. He could be a jazz musician. I've had zero problems with it. The fit and finish were very straight out of the box. We're very straight, good and straight out of the box. So I'm on my way to going skiing today in the Sierra Nevada and stopped to charge in Placerville, or Placerville or Placerville. It seems like I've heard it pronounced two ways. California, to my surprise, all 8 stations had the magic docks on them. This is the Tesla charging stations that have magic docks that allow other people with non-Teslas to charge there. So Tesla seems to be going full commando on rolling out these new docks, which he just came across accidentally, and probably a lot of federal funds available to them. That's true. I assume they must have some federal money. They do, and they're taking advantage of it. Brian, you should get a magic dock at the lake.
Yeah.
Because, you're going to have visitors, and they're not all going to be Teslas. You should have your own magic dock. And an actual dock with a magic dock.
In the water, yeah. No, one in the driveway.
Although if Tesla comes up with a boat, you'll probably buy a Tesla boat, so you'll need the Tesla adapter on the dock. The magic dock on the dock. Anyway, that brings us to...
The Lightning Round is a fast-paced look at the latest headlines in climate, clean energy, and transportation.
It's time for the Lightning Round. It's how we end the show every week. Brian, you know that. Our listeners know that, but if you're new to the show, this is how we do it. New EPA regulations could close 13% of U.S. coal plants, according to author Assad Razzouk. 13% just from the new EPA regulations, 13% of them closed just to meet those regulations.
Yep, it's happening, but there is still coal around, unfortunately.
Desmog.com, the American Gas Association, is trying to discredit research on the health impacts of gas stoves, which we've talked about on the show a lot recently. And they're trying to discredit it because,
they want to sell more gas.
You want to trust somebody? Trust the Gas Association. But newly revealed documents show it was discussing indoor air pollution concerns 5 decades ago. These bastards. New Zealand considers investing $9.8 billion, let's just call it $10 billion, in 5 terawatts of pumped hydro to bridge an electricity energy deficit. 5 terawatts of pumped hydro.
Yeah, well, 5 terawatt hours, because this is storage, of course. Like we were talking about, you can store energy in many different ways. So pumped hydro is a great way to do it. You pump the water basically uphill, and then when you need the energy, you let it go downhill through a turbine. And 9.8 billion for pumped hydro in New Zealand. That sounds great.
It sounds like they're going big on the pumped hydro, which is battery storage, a different way of doing it. And we'll see if efficiencies and learned technologies come out of that. India can achieve energy independence by 2047 through clean technology, says a new study. So India is, as we know, has very dirty electricity system, but man, they're coming around fast because solar is taking off.
Yeah, and energy independence is part of this whole thing. So, they can be self-reliant for energy if they go clean.
Oh, it's a CS fast company. The world steel industry consumes about 8% of the global primary energy and contributes 7% of CO2 emissions. The world steel industry, one of the hardest things to decarbonize, they say. Just 8% of the energy goes there. That's a lot, Brian. And, there's a lot of hope for cement reductions and taking care of that.
Yeah,
so we'll
cement
see.
and steel, huge carbon producers, but, these things can be improved.
First community solar installation goes live in Puerto Rico, which is happy to see because they're always affected by hurricanes and neglected by the mainland. The island's first cooperatively managed solar microgrid is being built. The network of photovoltaic panels and battery storage will use renewable energy to keep electricity flowing during power outages. So that's good to see. Resiliency,
Yeah,
my
so
friend.
Puerto Rico, they've had lots of, violent storms and lots of power outages in the last little while, and this has spurred them along into more clean energy solutions, and hopefully it works out.
Now, I forget the site, but there's a truck organization for pickup truck drivers, probably based in Nashville. They did a survey. It says, do truck drivers think the Tesla Cybertruck is real? 56% say no. They don't even think it's real. They don't know what's coming. But they also surveyed people and found a lot of people are actually thinking about it. Like half of pickup trucks are actually drivers.
Yeah, well, the Cybertruck was announced such a long time ago that, people are just starting to assume that it's vaporware at this point. But we should get a few by the end of this year.
And finally this week, wind and solar were 92% of India's power additions in 2022. So India is expanding, the middle class is expanding, trying to electrify everything at a rapid pace. Are they building coal? Yes, a little bit was coal, but 92% of the power added was wind and solar. So that's good news. Good news. And in solar alone, India added as much capacity as the UK's entire existing solar fleet in just 1 year.
Yeah, and I would think the solar resource in India is probably better than in the UK. Lots of sunshine, I would assume.
That is our show for this week. Please take the time to contact us. We beg you, we implore you. cleanenergyshow@gmail.com is our email. Whatever's on your mind, let us know. We always love to hear what you're thinking. And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel for special features, including the video podcast. And as of this week, we're officially on the new YouTube podcast platform. Check your YouTube podcast tab and maybe find us there. Subscribe to us. That helps us out, even if you don't watch us. I don't recommend watching us. The show's better. The audio show's better. You don't have to look at us. And, you're doing other things. I don't know what you're doing. Let us know what you're doing. And check out the Clean Energy Store show. Check out the Clean Energy. I still can't say it. Check out the Clean Energy Store. The link is in your show notes. Get a T-shirt. Be an early adopter and tell your friends about the show. If you're new to the show, remember to subscribe on your podcast app because that's how you get new episodes. Brian and I do this every week. Come hell or high water or Fargo, North Dakota. And we'll see you next week. Brian, have a safe trip to Fargo.
The Clean Energy Show.